Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Real Wisdom Artificial Intelligence. So, today is July 19th, and I am bringing you this from my afternoon walk here in the community that I live in Bangalore. So, let's go ahead get started for today. Today's dose of Rashmi is a logical, intellect led organization seeks favorable market conditions to drive growth in the external world. An integrated intelligence organization, North Star, on the other hand, is driving the impact in the external world based on what helps the team grow. So, as I was reflecting on this morning and arrived at the dose of Rashmi, a sailing quote came to my mind, and let me use that sailing quote to describe this dose of Rashmi. The sailing quote goes something like this: a pessimist complains about the wind, an optimist expects it to change. A realist sets the sails and moves. So, in the context of the three-layer Rashmi attention identity architecture applied at the organizational level, a layer one organization is like the pessimist, complaining about external market conditions and why it's not succeeding. And such organizations typically do not survive transition. A layer two or a growth mindset organization is honestly much closer to the realist while it sees the external market conditions and it certainly hopes that they will change, but it does what it needs to do and adapts to the market conditions. So it is closer to the realist in the code. And this is where now the causality inversion that is at the heart of the series and that you can see in today's dose of Rashmi as well, that is kind of an extension to the growth mindset. So, absolutely do everything that comes up at growth mindset. And in terms of the sailing analogy, yes, set your sails to the wind and do not necessarily complain about the external situations. Adapt to the external situations. Do that. However, if you've ever been on a sailboat, sailing crew is typically a team. And the experience of the crew on the sailboat as you are setting sail and adjusting to the winds can be fairly stressful or it can be very enjoyable. It all depends on how the crew is working together. And typically, there is a captain and then everybody else is a deckhand doing their respective work. So when the winds are not favorable and you're trying to steer based on those winds, there are different sails, different lines that need to be tended, etc. And if the roles are not clear, as well as if the mapping of the roles and the alignment of each person is not very clear. For example, you've made somebody who's very good at actually handling the lines, put that person in charge of the steering, and you're trying to expect that the boat is now going to move at the right speed in unfavorable conditions while you're adjusting the boat and adjusting your sails to the market conditions. You're not going to get an optimal experience, and the team is going to be quite stressed in doing that. However, this is where I keep stressing on alignment is the way forward, and having everybody on the team, including AI, perform aligned action in the future. That is why my title is Chief Alignment Officer. And that is where a layer three organization operates from growth mindset plus plus, where it, of course, will set the sails and will adapt to the external market condition and steer towards wherever the favorable winds are. But it'll do that while ensuring that everybody on the team is performing aligned action and is actually growing in the process. And with that mode of operation, the impact that it will create in the external world, and continuing with the sailing analogy, if that's how the team is operating, the speed at which you will move towards favorable winds is going to be much faster than if you had a team which wasn't performing aligned action, if you had wrong people doing the wrong things. That is what we are modeling at the RASHMI.ai, and that is the future of work in our opinion. So stay tuned for more. Thank you.